Here's a shocking reality. While the federal government just decided to stop tracking pollution from America's biggest industrial polluters, one state is doubling down on climate accountability, and the contrast couldn't be more dramatic. For almost 2 decades, roughly 8,000 major industrial facilities nationwide, including power plants, oil refineries, and manufacturing complexes, have been mandated to monitor and disclose their greenhouse gas emissions to federal authorities. But here's where it gets controversial. The Trump administration just announced plans to permanently dismantle this transparency program, despite its bipartisan origins dating back to the George W. Bush presidency. EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin justified this dramatic reversal by claiming the reporting requirements impose excessive financial burdens on American businesses, potentially saving them up to $2.4 billion in compliance expenses. But here's what most people don't realize. This decision creates a massive blind spot in our ability to track the very emissions driving climate change, which account for roughly 90% of the country's total greenhouse gas output. Measuring and documenting climate pollution represents a fundamental step toward reducing the lethal consequences of climate-driven disasters that generate additional contamination, devastating weather patterns, public health crises, and fatalities, explained Will Barrett, Assistant Vice President from National Clean Air Policy at the American Lung Association. His stark warning raises a critical question. Is saving corporate money worth sacrificing public health transparency? But here's where the plot thickens. California isn't backing down. The Golden State operates its own sophisticated greenhouse gas monitoring system through the California Air Resources Board, which actually surpasses federal requirements in several key areas. State officials made it crystal clear that Washington's decision won't impact their comprehensive tracking program whatsoever. Terminating the national system for gathering greenhouse gas information won't prevent climate change consequences from occurring. Consequences like the devastating fires that ravaged Los Angeles earlier this year and the catastrophic flooding that hit Texas, stated CARB spokesman Dave Cligburn. His pointed criticism suggests federal officials are embracing a dangerous, out-of-sight, out-of-mind philosophy toward environmental data. And this is the part most people miss. California's approach goes far beyond simple data collection. Unlike the federal program, which primarily serves monitoring purposes, the state system directly integrates with enforcement mechanisms. CARB mandates that large stationary pollution sources exceeding 10,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent annually must report their emissions, a much lower threshold than the federal requirement of 25,000 metric tons. More importantly, California's reporting system connects directly to the state's cap and trade program, which creates real financial consequences for excessive emissions. This market-based approach sets strict limits on greenhouse gas pollution while allowing companies to buy and sell emission allowances at quarterly auctions. As fewer allowances become available each year, total statewide pollution decreases systematically. We've been treating climate change as a serious threat for many years, explained John Balmes, Professor Emeritus at UC Berkeley and CARB's physician board member. Understanding the scope of greenhouse gas emissions throughout California remains essential to our strategic planning for mitigation efforts, which is why we maintain rigorous reporting standards. But here's where the controversy deepens. Zeldin argues that federal reporting requirements amount to nothing more than bureaucratic red tape that accomplishes nothing to enhance air quality. He contends these regulations burden American businesses and manufacturing with billions in costs, inflating living expenses, threatening our nation's economic prosperity, and harming American communities. This stark philosophical divide raises uncomfortable questions about priorities. Should businesses bear the cost of transparency, Or does economic relief justify reduced environmental oversight? The answer might depend on which side of the fence you're sitting on. California's reporting system currently covers more than 550 major facilities, including energy giants like Pacific Gas Electric, Southern California Gas Company, and fossil fuel corporations such as Chevron, Marathon, and Phillips 66. Marathon's Los Angeles refinery, the West Coast's largest refinery, ranks among the state's top emission sources. The numbers tell a compelling story. California facilities reported approximately 370 million metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent in 2023, while the federal program captured 2.58 billion metric tons nationwide that same year. Under the proposed federal elimination, none of these major polluters would face federal reporting obligations, though state requirements would remain intact. But pollution doesn't respect state boundaries, a reality that complicates this patchwork approach. Requiring polluters to document their emissions provides a vital mechanism for local governments to monitor how industries within their jurisdictions affect public health, stated Kate Wright, Executive Director of Climate Mayors, a bipartisan coalition of nearly 350 mayors nationwide, including Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass. Here's a sobering statistic that might change your perspective. Air pollution kills approximately 135,000 Americans annually. Wright emphasized that cities work tirelessly every day to reduce that number and need access to that critical data to make informed decisions for their communities and ensure people nationwide can breathe clean air free from toxic, cancer-causing substances. The irony is striking. California, despite leading the nation in climate policies, continues struggling with some of America's worst air quality. Los Angeles has earned the dubious distinction of being ranked the nation's smoggiest city in 25 of the last 26 years, largely due to massive numbers of vehicles, trains, cargo ships, and geographical features that trap pollution in inland valleys. This latest federal retreat represents just one piece of a broader environmental rollback campaign. The Trump administration has already targeted California's authority to establish strict vehicle emission standards and proposed eliminating more than 30 air and water quality regulations while simultaneously promoting expanded oil and gas production. The Environmental Protection Network, comprising over 650 former EPA employees. Projects that repealing these environmental safeguards could result in nearly 200,000 premature deaths by 2050 and trigger more than 10,000 daily asthma attacks among American children. Barrett characterizes the greenhouse gas reporting elimination as a direct assault on climate science and policies designed to protect human health, while simultaneously highlighting the critical importance of California's continued climate and clean air leadership. The EPA plans to open a public comment period in coming weeks to gather input on this controversial proposal. But here's the million-dollar question that deserves your honest opinion. In an era of increasing climate disasters and health concerns, should we be expanding environmental transparency or reducing regulatory burdens on businesses? What's your take on this fundamental tension between economic considerations and public health protection? Do you believe California's go-it-alone approach represents responsible leadership or regulatory overreach? The comment period ahead might just determine which vision of environmental governance prevails, and your voice could help shape that outcome.